In June 1996, the body of an 18-year-old woman was discovered inside her Idaho Falls apartment. Despite the collection of DNA, the identity of the perpetrator would remain unknown for over 2 decades. Angie Ray Dodge was born on December 21, 1977, in Vancouver, Washington, to her parents Jack and Carol Dodge. As the youngest of 4 children and their only daughter, Angie held a special place in the family. She began her educational journey in San Diego, California, where she attended preschool, before her family eventually settled in Idaho Falls, Idaho. There, Angie continued her schooling and quickly became known not only for her academic abilities, but also for her willingness to help others. During high school, she spent time tutoring younger children in subjects like math and English, offering guidance and support to those who struggled, further highlighting her generous spirit. In 1995, Angie graduated from Idaho Falls High School with honors. Her academic excellence earned her a place at Idaho State University, where she enrolled shortly after graduation. In 1996, at just 18 years old, Angie had taken a significant step toward independence by moving into her first apartment in Idaho Falls. However, just 3 weeks after moving into her new apartment, something unexpected and deeply unsettling was about to unfold. On June 13th, Angie was assaulted and brutally stabbed to her end in that very apartment. When she failed to show up for work that morning, 2 of her co-workers became concerned and went to check on her. It was they who discovered her lifeless body and alerted the authorities. The Idaho Falls Police Department launched an investigation immediately, collecting evidence from the scene and interviewing people who had seen or interacted with Angie the night before. The investigators recovered male DNA and hairs from the crime scene and sent them for DNA analysis. Testing at the time revealed that the samples all belonged to a single, unidentified male. Based on witness accounts and tips, the authorities believed that more than one person might have been involved in the attack. Despite not matching the DNA found at the scene, 20-year-old Christopher Tapp became a suspect in January 1997. The investigators theorized that Christopher may have been part of a group that committed the crime, which kept him under scrutiny despite the lack of physical evidence linking him directly to Angie's case. Christopher was subjected to more than 100 hours of intense interrogation by the police. During these sessions, he eventually confessed to the crime, but his statements were riddled with inconsistencies and contradictions. No physical evidence ever connected him to the crime scene. Still, based on his confession, which had been obtained under significant pressure, he was convicted in May 1998 of aiding and abetting. He was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in prison, despite ongoing concerns about the legitimacy of his confession. In 2001, Christopher formally recanted his confession, claiming that he had been coerced by investigators and that they had fed him details about the crime. In 2007, his case attracted the attention of the Idaho Innocence Project. A professor and an undergraduate student at Boise State University reviewed the case and examined the interrogation tapes. They concluded that Christopher had been heavily pressured and manipulated into making a false confession. Their findings added momentum to the growing doubts surrounding his conviction. An appeal was filed in March 2017, and as a result, the assault charge against him was dismissed. This reduced his sentence from 30 years to 20. Having already served 20 years by that time, Christopher was released from prison. The wrongful conviction had taken 2 decades of his life. Dozens of people were waiting outside the court. Christopher, who appeared taken aback by the applause received, gave a short statement on the courthouse steps. He said, "I want to prove to everybody that I can be something and do something right." He said the following about being released: "The world had changed. Cell phones ruled the world and there was no more physical talking between people." That really bothered me when I first got home. Plus, in my mind, I was still a 20-year-old kid, but all my friends had kids, mortgages, and car payments. They had real lives. In October 2020, he filed a lawsuit against the city of Idaho Falls for his wrongful imprisonment. In June 2022, the city reached a settlement agreement with him for $11.4 million, acknowledging the significant injustice he had endured. As part of the legal agreement reached with the Bonneville County prosecuting attorney, The charge of first-degree slaying remained on his record, while the assault charge was officially dismissed. For over 2 decades, Carla Dodge refused to let her daughter's case be forgotten. Driven by grief and determination, she took an active role in the search for the truth, working closely with investigators and independently pursuing leads to find the second perpetrator. Carla conducted her own research, reached out to forensic experts, and stayed in close contact with the authorities to ensure that Angie's case remained a priority. The Idaho Falls Police Department also maintained their commitment, reaching out over the years to various law enforcement agencies, the FBI, the Attorney General's office, and forensic specialists to identify the individual whose DNA had been left at the crime scene. In 2016, the Idaho Falls Police Department partnered with Francine Bardot and the West Jordan Police Department in Utah. The investigators hoped that using the MVAC forensic DNA collection system would help extract additional touch DNA from previously collected evidence. The following year, they sought help from Parabon Nanolabs. They generated trait predictions from the crime scene DNA, producing a digital composite image of what the suspect might have looked like at age 25. Based on traits like skin tone, eye and hair color, face shape, and freckling. In November 2018, Idaho Falls detectives intensified efforts with Parabon's newest advancements in DNA analysis. A short list of 6 individuals emerged through genealogical mapping. The investigators focused on the most promising lead, a man residing in Twin Falls. In February, a team was sent to covertly collect his DNA. They seized an opportunity when the man discarded chewing tobacco, which they hoped contained viable genetic material. Though testing was expedited, the results came back negative. His DNA did not match the profile left at the crime scene. Despite the setback, analysis of the DNA profile continued. Parabon's genetic genealogy work revealed that the Twin Falls subject was more distantly related to the true suspect than initially believed. Based on family tree positioning, it became unlikely that any of the remaining 5 men were the source of the crime scene DNA. Then, in a crucial breakthrough, Parabon researchers located an old obituary in a small library's digital archive. The document mentioned a woman whose daughter had been briefly married into the same family line, a connection that had previously gone unnoticed due to the lack of children from that union. However, further details in the obituary revealed that the woman had a son, Brian Lee Dripp Sr., from a different relationship, one that still carried the suspect's family DNA. Parabon and the investigators traced this 7th individual through extended genealogical investigation. They discovered that Dripps had lived in Idaho Falls in 1996, directly across the street from the Dodge family. In 2019, he was located in Caldwell, Idaho. The detectives collected DNA from a cigarette butt discarded from his vehicle, and the results revealed a conclusive genetic match to the DNA left at Angie's crime scene. Following his arrest, Dripps confessed during interrogation to both the assault and ending the life of Angie. He claimed that he had been heavily intoxicated on illegal substances and alcohol, and that he had intended only to assault her. Dripps insisted that he had acted alone. In February 2021, he pleaded guilty to the charges. At 55 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 20 years. Carol, Angie's mother, reflected on her journey. She said, "My fight was to find my daughter justice. Every road I went down, somebody tried to put up a barricade or a roadblock. Everywhere I turned, somebody said, 'You cannot do this' or 'You cannot do that.' I said, 'Just stand back and watch me do it.'" In April 1982, an 8-month-old girl vanished from her mother's arms during a violent altercation in Ohio, setting off a decades-long mystery. The last time Olisa Williams was seen alive was on April 29, 1982, when her father Isaiah Williams forcibly took her from the arms of her mother, Denise Frazier Daniel, during a violent encounter at a friend's home in Ohio. At the time, Denise had been staying with a friend to escape the repeated abuse she suffered at the hands of Isaiah. On the day Olisa disappeared, she responded to a knock at the door and found Isaiah standing outside. In her words, He hit me in the face, and I fall back, and that was when he grabbed her and Olisa's crying. She recalled chasing after him in a panic before returning to the house and immediately calling the police. Although the officers quickly apprehended Isaiah, the child was not in his custody. During questioning, he gave vague and shifting explanations about Olisa's whereabouts. He reportedly told the officers that he had left the child with relatives unknown to Denise. His inconsistent statements and alleged claims of memory loss complicated the investigation, allowing him to avoid formal charges for many years. Despite being the primary person of interest from the outset, the authorities lacked the evidence to move forward with prosecution at the time. Throughout the years, Isaiah remained on the radar of investigators. His history of domestic violence against Denise was well documented. In a significant development, both his brother and one of his former wives came forward and informed the investigators that they had seen Olisa with Isaiah in early July of 1982. They noted that the child appeared to be in good health during those sightings. Another ex-wife of Isaiah provided crucial information. She told the police that she was with Isaiah during the early hours of July 10, 1982, when he placed the child into his car and drove away around 2 or 3 a.m. According to her account, he returned later that morning at approximately 11 a.m. without the child. She stated that he then loaded her belongings into his car and dropped her off at work. Furthermore, when she stayed overnight at his home again on July 22nd, she reportedly saw no sign of Olisa, suggesting the child had not been returned. In early 1983, Isaiah appeared in court for violating a restraining order. During that appearance, he claimed that while driving in the summer of 1982, he consumed alcohol and smoked marijuana before pulling over to sleep. When he awoke, he alleged that Olisa was gone and assumed Denise had taken her. Over the years, Isaiah made conflicting statements, at times telling Denise directly that he ended their child's life, while telling the investigators he had no recollection of the events, citing memory loss due to a car crash. The case eventually went cold, but was reopened almost 4 decades later in 2021. A renewed investigation by the Ann Arbor Police Department was done. Though Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel's office did not reveal what new evidence was uncovered, they stated that the authorities believed Williams took Olisa's life as a means of exerting control over her mother. Williams had a violent past, including a conviction for assault with intent to commit great bodily harm after beating an ex-wife with an 8-foot board. He served 10 years in prison for that crime. In October 2021, 76-year-old Williams was finally charged. The charge was filed in Washtenaw County's 15th District Court. The road to trial was prolonged due to an extended extradition process, but by May 2023, Williams was officially bound over for trial in Washtenaw County. The long-awaited trial culminated on May 10, 2024, when a jury found Isaiah Williams guilty. Though Olisa's body was never recovered, the court determined that the evidence was sufficient to hold Williams accountable. In July, following the guilty verdict, Williams was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, closing one of Michigan's oldest cold cases. Olisa's mother, Denise, read a victim impact statement at the sentencing hearing. She told the court, "Isaiah's silence is a cruelty beyond measure. You have taken from me the most precious gift from God, and now you deny me the chance to lay her to rest. You may think that your silence will protect you, but it will only add to your guilt and shame. You may have taken my Olisa's life, but you will never take away my love for her, and I pray somehow I will be able to bring her home to rest." In November 1983, a motorist driving in Delray Beach, Florida, stumbled upon the horrifying sight of a lifeless body. For decades, no leads emerged, and the person responsible remained free. Carla Lowe was born in 1962. At 21 years old, she lived in Pompano Beach, located in Broward County, Florida. On November 13, 1983, Carla's life came to a tragic and violent end. Her lifeless body was discovered lying in the middle of Depot Avenue, near the Delray Beach Amtrak station. The scene was disturbing. Carla had been brutally beaten and then run over. It was clear that her demise had not been accidental. A man driving down Depot Avenue that early morning was the first to come across her body. What he thought might be debris in the road turned out to be far worse. Stunned and horrified, he quickly dialed 911 to report what he had found. The call was placed with urgency, and within minutes, the officers from the Delray Beach Police Department were dispatched to the scene. When the officers arrived, they confirmed the caller's worst fears. The young woman found on the road was declared deceased at the scene. Her identity was soon confirmed as Carla, a beloved member of her community. The police launched an investigation immediately. Crime scene specialists worked tirelessly, combing the area for any shred of evidence. Witnesses were questioned, nearby properties were canvassed, and every available lead was pursued. She was waiting for a train at the local Amtrak station when she was attacked, beaten to her end, and run over by a car. The police found her car, a 1963 Mercury Comet, in a field located just east of 1135 West Atlantic Avenue. Yet, as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the investigation yielded no clear answers. Despite the investigators' efforts, no arrests were made and the case went cold. In late 2021, nearly 4 decades after Carla's case was opened, Delray Beach's Cold Case Unit revisited the long-dormant investigation. This renewed effort was made possible by advancements in forensic technology. Using the Foster plus Freeman Recover system, an advanced latent fingerprint development method, the investigators were able to retrieve fingerprint evidence that had not been recoverable back in 1983. The recovered fingerprints were submitted for analysis, and the results were both conclusive and chilling. They matched Ralph Williams, a man who had actually been questioned during the original investigation in 1983, but had never been charged. At the time, there had not been enough evidence to link him definitively to the crime. On the day she was found, he was taken into custody on grand theft auto and burglary charges, but they could not connect him to this case. Williams had been living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time of this forensic discovery. The investigators tracked him down, and the fingerprint evidence provided the missing link they had long needed. His connection to the crime scene was no longer speculative. It was scientifically confirmed. In November 2021, Williams was arrested in Jacksonville. He was charged in the first degree. The authorities wasted no time in beginning the legal process to ensure he would face those charges in the appropriate jurisdiction. He was quickly extradited from Jacksonville to Palm Beach County, where the original crime had taken place. Jackie Lowe Repass, Carla's sister, said the following of Williams' arrest: "It means everything to me. 38 years I have waited for this. He took a very beautiful person out of this world. There is a name now to who did this to my sister." Before his trial, in November 2022, Williams said that he was dissatisfied with his defense and sought to hire his own attorney. But he had a change of heart and accepted a plea that keeps him from serving any prison time. He was sentenced to 365 days in the county jail and 10 years of probation. 60-year-old Williams would then be released from jail after receiving credit for time served. Jackie said, "It is not justice. It is just not justice." Him being cocky the way he is, decided that he did not want to take the plea. Jackie said that she and the other family members did not really want a plea to begin with, but they understood it. She said, "It should be a first-degree charge. It was like it happened all over again." Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg said, "The guilty plea and sentence, while imperfect, hopefully provides a measure of justice for the family of victim Carla Lowe in this nearly 40-year-old cold case. I want to thank Prosecutor Alethea McRoberts and detectives from Delray Beach Police for the hard work that led to the conviction of Ralph Williams." Jackie said that her family will move forward with a lot of anger, but they accept the outcome. She said, "He still got a slap on the wrist." She added that she wants people to know that her late sister was a good and generous person. She said, "She just was not a piece of trash that someone threw away." In September 1977, a speeding driver crashed a stolen car off a rural highway near Delafield, Wisconsin. The man was ejected and lost his life instantly. With no identification, his identity remained a mystery for over 4 decades. On September 14, 1977, in the early hours of the morning, a deputy from the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department attempted to stop a speeding vehicle. The driver ignored a stop sign, lost control of the car, and veered off the highway. The crash proved fatal as the driver, who was the only person in the vehicle, was ejected. The scene of the accident was located 7.5 miles east of Delafield, Wisconsin. Following the crash, the investigators identified that the vehicle had been reported stolen from Gurnee, Illinois. This added a layer of complexity to the case, suggesting potential criminal intent or behavior associated with the vehicle's final journey. Despite efforts to uncover more about the incident, there was little to directly connect the driver to any established identity at the time. The autopsy conducted by a forensic pathologist revealed that the deceased was a white male, estimated to be between 20 and 30 years old. He measured 6 feet tall, weighed approximately 155 pounds, and had brown hair cut in a military style. These physical characteristics provided a general profile, but were not enough to make an immediate identification. Among the items recovered from the vehicle was an object bearing the name John. While investigators were able to confirm that the name did not match the registered owner of the stolen vehicle, they could not determine whether it belonged to the deceased, was an alias, or was completely unrelated. The mystery surrounding the driver's identity persisted for decades. In October 2019, the long unsolved case of the unidentified man, known as Delafield John Doe, 1977, was reopened by a deputy medical examiner. The case was referred to the DNA Doe Project. A DNA sample was successfully sequenced, creating a viable genetic profile that could be uploaded to public DNA databases such as GED Match and Family Tree DNA. By mid-2020, genealogists from the DDP began the challenging task of constructing a family tree using the genetic data. The process proved to be complex and time-consuming, involving extensive research and analysis. Despite the difficulties, the team was able to provide the medical examiner with some initial insights, including potential surnames linked to the unidentified man's genetic matches. One of the crucial breakthroughs came when a marriage record was discovered. This document led the medical examiner to a specific individual who closely matched the profile they had been working to identify. In November 2021, this lead pointed to John Lindberg Scott, and to confirm the theory, DNA was obtained from his sister, Jean Nunn. The comparison yielded a conclusive match. John, born on May 6, 1950, was originally from Bristol, Tennessee. At the time of his demise, he was 27 years old. John faced personal difficulties that led to a growing distance between him and his family. These struggles, though unspecified, appeared to push him toward a solitary existence. As time went on, his disconnection from familial ties deepened, and he became increasingly isolated. This emotional and social withdrawal may have played a part in his eventual descent into minor criminal activity. The medical examiner stated, "John's case has touched so many lives over the decades, and it is such a blessing to be able to finally give him his name back and offer his family some answers as to where he has been all these years." Reflecting on the journey to bring John home, the medical examiner added, "Words cannot express how honored I am to restore his rightful name to him and work on returning him to his sister, where he belongs."